As Dr. Spencer brought out, why this big issue with foreign fighters all of a sudden? It isn't a new issue. I mean, you know, American Civil War, thousands of Canadians went south over the border to fight in that. The Spanish Civil War, the Israeli War of Independence, World War II, a lot of Canadians joined the British Army instead of the Canadian Army. There's all sorts of border skirmishes where Canadians went and joined the American Army. Vietnam, some say anywhere from 5,000 to 30,000 Canadians fought in the Vietnam War. The 1980s, the Mujahideen. I mean, we supported those foreign fighters to go into Afghanistan to fight the Soviets. So why all of a sudden is this big issue with foreign fighters? Why do we really care? Well, I think as Dr. Spencer also said, it does. It has affected us. All of a sudden, we've seen Western citizens, our citizens, being killed by extremist groups that are consisting of a large percentage of foreign fighters. ISIS, about 40% of ISIS is foreign fighters. All of a sudden we see these foreign fighters assisting these extremist groups destabilize entire areas. When all of a sudden, you know, after Afghanistan and Iraq, most Western countries were more than happy not to get involved in another quagmire. And so they allowed these groups to fester in the ungoverned spaces in Syria and in Iraq, and all of a sudden it came to haunt them. All of a sudden, strategic areas in Libya and Syria were now being taken over by these things, assisted by foreign fighters, who is now compromising Western interests. And finally, all of that, as we tried to start to get a hold of that, started to have a backlash where now these foreign fighters and the groups they supported started to bring that problem home domestically. Terrorists, acts of terrorism that, you know, targeting our countries themselves. So all of a sudden, foreign fighters did become a big domestic and international issue. Now, I think it's important just to lay out what are we talking about when we're talking about foreign fighters. Here are two definitions by two experts on the subject. It's pretty clear. We're not talking about contractors. We're not talking about mercenaries. We're talking about individuals who, for ideological reasons, who feel that they want to fight for a cause. And let's be quite honest, I'm sure there's a lot of adventurism in there as well or so, but these are individuals fueled by more than just money or profit or so. And that's an important thing to hoist aboard. The scale of the problem. Since 2001, the experts tell us there's over 20,000 individuals who have went out to be foreign fighters across the world or so. In Syria, which is a hotbed of foreign fighters at the moment, the more current number is probably closer to 20,000 and over 3,000 individuals from Western countries. To put that into scale in a Canadian context, one has to remember CSIS is telling us there's anywhere from 130 to 145 Canadians presently that they believe are foreign fighters external to the country. They also know that there's about 80 that have come back, that there's 80 individuals who have been foreign fighters in the past and they're now here in Canada. The other issue that they'll tell you, though, is that's their best guess. They don't know. One of the issues with foreign fighters is the fact that many of these extremist groups love to get foreign fighters in for the propaganda purposes, for fundraising, for the expertise they bring in, but also the mobility. If you have a Canadian, a US, a German, whatever type of Western passport, you can cross borders far more easily than some of the individuals from the conflict states. And therefore, this allows the mobility. This allows them to do a whole bunch of different things. And so, you don't know. The CSIS, our own intelligence agencies, don't know of all the Canadians who are out traveling on their passports. Are they going out to support terrorism? Are they going out for tourism? Don't know. So that number of 130 to 145, that's their best guess. Now, when I brought up that number of 80, okay, there's 80 individuals or so. Something to keep in the back of your mind is there's been a report done that showed that 1 in 9 foreign fighters who return to the country either return back home to commit domestic terrorist acts or commit those acts in another country. So based on statistics, I mean, I'm simplifying the matter though, but all of a sudden you look at the 80, 1 in 9, according to statistics based on empirical research, what does that tell you? that there could be that potential problem back home. So it goes back to that hidden threat that I'll get to in a minute. So why does the government and other governments feel that foreign fighters poses this significant threat? The first reason, as you say, is they perpetuate the conflict where they're at. Because they don't have a vested interest. They don't have equity in that region, in that population. They are there, and we'll get when we talk about radicalization and everything else, they're there for a cause. Oftentimes they believe they're fighting for a cause that is greater than themselves, and that cause is losing, and therefore they have to fight more aggressively than, let's say, the local individuals. They don't have, as I said, that equity. They don't have family there. They don't own property there. They don't have relations or anything. So they can fight. They can bring up that level of indiscriminate violence higher than the locals do. And this has been shown. The Bosnian conflict, one of the Bosnian chain of command lamented the fact that at first they thought getting the Mujahideen with all that experience from Afghanistan fighting the Soviets was a good thing for them. They very quickly lamented the fact because they had no control over them. That group of foreign fighters that came in to assist them created sectarian violence. They created more looting, the outrageous sort of crimes against humanity. Many of those were committed by these foreign fighters because they didn't care. They felt that they had to drive it farther. In Iraq, al-Zarqawi, sorry for the pronunciation there, but when he took over Al-Qaeda in Iran, he pushed that civil war even farther by trying to get the Shia, the Sunnis, and the Kurds all to fight to create a greater civil war within the war that's already in place. Again, another foreign fighter that came in. So they perpetuate. They tend to go farther than is required. They act as inspiration to other vulnerable individuals. Whether they come back or do the videos that we've seen with Canadians on there, say, hi, I'm Al-Kanadi, and I was a normal Canadian like you, and now here I'm fighting for a greater cause. They provide that inspiration for individuals who are looking for something, some sort of cause to fuel their identity or whatever it may be, or their raison d'etre. And so they provide that image. They can come back. They provide counseling, guidance, how to become a foreign fighter, who to see, what it's about. And so they are a catalyst. They create a blowback effect, what I told you about, that 1 in 9. Oftentimes, when you look at London 7/7, that 5 July 2007 attack along the subway and the double-decker bus in London itself, Tavistock Square, 2 of the 4 individuals had gone into the federally administrated areas on the Afghan-Pakistan border because they wanted to fight in Afghanistan. Their handlers, Al-Qaeda, basically said, look, we trained you up now, we want you to go back and commit an attack. So foreign fighters provide those organizations the ability, as I said, with mobility of their passports, to go back. They understand the culture. They understand, how our cultures work. They could go back very easily and commit attacks on behalf of those organizations. Or they could go to other Western nations. So it's that blowback effect where they go, they get more radicalized, they get more training, they become more adept at violence, at explosives, at weapons training, whatever it may be. Then they come back and they can now use that experience, use that training, use that knowledge to be a more effective terrorist domestically or in some third country. And as I just said there, the fourth reason is they become more sophisticated, more lethal, more adept at planning, potentially more radicalized, so that they now carry on the jihad in their own countries themselves. I don't want to get too much into recruitment because I believe when we talk about radicalization, we'll probably talk a degree to that. But from the New York Police Department studies, MI5 studies or so, one of the things that has come out is, and we all know social media, we've all seen it, the different magazines inspired by the different terrorist organizations, all of the videos, ISIS, and their ability to put out brutal, savage videos which actually work for them in recruiting more individuals and achieving their aim of pushing their agenda, so to speak, or so. But it's not just social media. The news is a one big thing. When you when they looked at a lot of individuals who have decided to become foreign fighters, many of them started benignly by watching the news and being upset, frustrated with collateral damage happening in attacks, let's say in Afghanistan or Iraq or so, feeling that Western countries were utilizing technology and aircraft, to target innocent civilians, and that this was an outrageous attack on different populations or so. And so that started to get them fueled up, and then by going online and everything else, and again, I'll let Dr. Loza talk to much of that stuff, but it's not just that social media, that media type of catalyst. It's also the face-to-face. Religious leaders, community leaders, foreign fighters who returned, who are now able to provide that example or whatever. And you can see some of the recruitment sites, no surprises there. So it's much of these different ways, and this is why foreign fighters, again, causes a bit of a problem for governments, because they are able to recruit other individuals. They're able to tell them exactly what to expect, how to move from their country to another country, who the contacts are, what they need, to provide all of that information that makes them more effective. Again, the New York Police Department study, MI5 study, what it brought out was that there is no basic category. You can say, it's only the disenfranchised, only the poor, only the unemployed. These are the individuals who you have to worry about. Not at all. It crosses all segments of society, the whole strata of society, upper class, middle class, lower class, whatever. But what they did find is that many of the individuals sort of were alienated from society. They just didn't fit in. They didn't have a reason. They didn't have a cause. They didn't have an identity. They didn't have some sort of focus in their life. They were sort of drifting and were looking for something to grab onto. And for whatever reason, there's all sorts of different causes, but for many, the extreme jihadism was one of those means that was actually able to bring them in. And when you look at, for individuals who get hooked into that, they also then look at some of the different organizations. When you look at this Syrian example, ISIS gets 80% of foreign fighter recruits because individuals look at them and want to join them because they see discipline there, they see success there, they see an organization that instead of just putting out fatwas and putting out doctrine and videos is actually doing something. They're actually achieving what they're trying to do, that caliphate. And so they join those. They don't join local small insurgent groups or rebel groups because they find those groups because they are local, they are concerned about the local population. They're concerned about the terrain, they're concerned about the community, and are more likely not to be aggressive in their warfare. They're not likely to join together with other groups to fight whatever regime they're against because they are more local power-based, as opposed to these larger extremist groups such as ISIS, which, as I said, attract the majority of the foreign fighters.
2 minutes.
Perfect. So the hidden threat here, many experts, CSIS, academics will tell you that foreign fighters are a huge threat because, as I said, they're trained, they're experienced, they're radicalized. They now come back and they can cause a lot of problems. When you add this with lone wolf terrorism, and lone wolf terrorism is basically individuals who will go out and commit terrorist acts on their own, maybe loosely affiliated with a group or ideology, but they are inspired by themselves. When you add this to foreign fighters who come back, individuals, as I said, more sophisticated, have the training they require, all of a sudden it's problematic. Because all the experts will tell you lone wolf terrorism is the worst type of terrorism because it's hard to catch these individuals. They act on their own. They're not communicating with anyone. They're not sharing plans or financing. They're doing it on their own. They're more adaptable. They're more agile, and they're able to maneuver easier. So you can't eavesdrop on them. You can't try to intercept individuals such as this. Study of between 2009 and 2015, 63 different attacks. 74% of those attacks were committed by only one individual. When you look at one or two individuals working together, 90% of those attacks represent, so you can see that the lone wolf terrorism is very, very a big threat. And as well, when you look at between 2009 and 2015, there's been an attack or an attempted attack every 34 days on average in the United States. So again, when you look back at the hidden threat of foreign fighters and what they bring to the game, either by inspiring others or by doing their own attacks, it becomes quite a threat. And locally, you all remember, well, Toronto 18 goes back quite a ways, but we look at the Rouleau attack in Saint-Jean, Bibeau, in Ottawa. It changed, for those of you who were watching the news that day, the whole reporters will tell you the psyche of the Canadian population had changed. This was our 9/11. We were so mesmerized by the fact that someone had actually attacked Parliament or so. And I mean, this is, both of those individuals were individuals who were extreme risk travelers who were not allowed to travel, therefore they did the attack at home. So what is the challenge for the government? I mean, oftentimes you hear people say, well, it's a more integrated approach to solving this problem. We have to talk with all the local leaders. Everybody has to become involved. Easy to say, but how do you, if there's alienated individuals, how do you bring them back in? How do you solve that issue? Because when we look at every week in the press, there's another, white cop killing a black individual, or there's another case of bullying, or another politician who has to apologize for what he said on Twitter to some group or so. I mean, we have enough problems just dealing with normal societal issues, and then you're trying to tackle something like that alienated individual who's looking for something on, and is radicalized on the internet. How do we balance individual rights with the collective good so that the government can actually try to get a grip of who is traveling and who are they traveling, why are they traveling, where are they traveling to? C-51, big issues with C-51, and it's that perfect example of the balance between collective good versus individual rights. And I just got the hook, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.